Hey everybody, this is Will. I am at the NAMM show 2022, hanging out at the Oberheim booth. Brian, what is this beautiful instrument behind us?
This is the Oberheim Obx8.
Okay.
So this is the first new Oberheim synth in at least 30 years.
Wow, okay.
And essentially it contains within it the circuitry for the OB-X,
Okay.
the OB-X8, and the OB-8, which were the three main Oberheim polyphonic synths that were basically all over the 80s.
Everything.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, once you hear the sounds, you know where they're coming from.
That's
they come
awesome.
from this thing, yeah. So basically what we have is the front panel of the OB-X, which
Okay.
was the first one and the simplest one.
Okay.
And so that's why you see this like great expanse
It's so
of
easy
space.
to understand. Like I get it. Yeah.
Lots of room to reach in, grab knobs, big buttons.
Yep.
And this is really a good layout for someone who's a keyboard player and you're on stage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're about evoking emotion from the sounds, and you want to be able to grab something and have it do what you think it should do.
Yeah.
But with the OB-X8 and ultimately the OB-8s, they knew they needed to do a little bit more, right? So they added this whole layer of page 2 functionality,
Okay.
which is all kinds of additional features for modulation and making changes to the way the various components work.
Yep.
And we have that here. You hit this
Cool.
button, and depending on the mode, so I'll go in here and set this mode here, because what you can do is you can have the page 2 features just on the display,
Okay.
which is how I expect most people will do this.
Okay.
But you can change it so that it's panel plus display. And so what happens then is when you hit page 2, all of the panel
Oh, cool.
functions change
Yeah. Okay.
to match those parameters. You can still change things here, but you can see, like, you know, I can do stuff. If we go, see, I just changed this, and it's now showing me what I actually did was I shifted the LFO on the second half of the
Nice.
voices 180 degrees.
Okay.
So that's a really interesting thing that you could learn to use on stage.
Because this is almost like the functionality of like a keyboard workstation, but in a hardware synthesizer,
from
but
that
very
time.
simple.
Yeah, from that time. So
Yeah.
you know, completely analog.
Yeah, that's right.
And so we, like I think I mentioned, but we have the oscillators, the discrete oscillators
Okay.
from the OB-X,
Okay.
and we have the SEM-based filter from the OB-X as well. But we also have the Curtis-based filter from the OB-X8 and the OB-8,
Nice.
and that exists in 2 and 4-pole mode.
And you're just tapping that 3 times.
Yeah, just tapping
switch
it 3
Okay,
times. So this is our 4-pole Curtis.
Cool. Okay.
That's the 2-pole SEM,
Okay.
and that's the 2-pole Curtis.
Great.
Right?
Cool.
And just to be a little bit more cool, when we go to page 2 and look under the hood, and I have to scroll through all the many settings under here, we can actually access the high pass, band pass, and notch modes of the original SEM filter. So not found in the OB-X.
Okay.
But we can access them here.
That's cool.
So you can use a high pass filter, notch sounds, and modulate them the way that you could with the other filter models.
Nice.
Yeah, pretty sweet. But otherwise, a lot of the action is happening in the keyboard and the bend box.
Okay.
So the keyboard allows you to use split and double patches.
Cool. Okay. Yeah.
So, and you can define where the split is by holding split and pressing a key.
That's so easy.
It's very easy,
I like
yeah.
that.
And there are separate banks for splits and doubles. So when you create a split or double for yourself,
Yeah.
you can stash that away in its own bank. And then you can also, if you're in a split mode, say, you can access the lower and upper patches
That's
just
awesome.
by hitting these.
This seems like such a great solution, particularly for live use.
Yeah.
Of obviously great classic sounds.
Yeah.
But it seems super easy to navigate. The ability to quickly do a split, not
That's
have
the
to.
idea,
You know,
yeah.
I mentioned workstation earlier, but
Yeah.
a workstation would be like 5,000 pages.
It's true,
to
you'd
do
have to
that.
go through a menu,
That's
yeah.
right, and this is just one button and hit the key.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really cool.
And over here, so what we have going on here is we have the levers.
Okay.
And these are meant for really quick action, and there's no chance of, like, say, setting the mod wheel up and forgetting it's there.
Yeah,
Because it's
yeah.
always going to return to the center.
That's great.
But they also work opposite to how any other wheels or controls work on any other polysynths, because this is bending up,
Oh, cool.
that's bending down,
Okay.
and this is applying modulation. And the reason for that is you can use 2 fingers, really quick action, and once you learn how it works, it's a very light and quick, fast thing to do to get modulations happening. And you can also, if you want to, set the vibrato LFO just on with this depth control.
Okay.
Right? So you have 2 different ways to apply vibrato. So what I just said reveals that there's a separate LFO in here. It's separate from this LFO.
Okay.
So this LFO is only going to be applied to oscillator pitch.
Okay.
So you basically can have a more complicated set of modulations, but they're kind of in discrete places.
Nice.
And so this really becomes about how you're performing with your left hand.
That's great.
And so we have, this is the modulation section of it. We hit this switch and now we're dealing with the arpeggiator.
Okay.
And because of the way the split and double systems work, you can arpeggiate one part of the split and have the other part of the split free to play leads on. You can arpeggiate both with different arpeggiation settings.
Okay.
And you can do the same thing with the mod section, because if we're in a split mode, we can turn off, say, modulation for the upper patch.
Great.
And same with the arpeggiator. We can decide which part of the split's going to get arpeggiated.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's super, super neat. Now, on the back of this, is it 2 outputs? How many outputs do we have on the
Well,
back?
what we have is a stereo left and right.
Okay.
And then between those is a mono output.
Okay, cool.
And there's a global setting to set the synth to stereo or mono.
Okay.
But there's also a setting to have it auto sense.
Okay.
So it'll just kind of know what you plug in.
Cool. That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah. And we have USB and MIDI in, out
cool.
and through. Yeah.
So this can function. You can use this as an interface directly.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we also have aftertouch to the filter and modulation, and velocity to the filter and the volume envelope.
That's amazing. So I want to ask one final question.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a softball, because anybody that knows synthesizers and loves synths, like, they're in. They got it, right?
Yeah.
But in a world of amazing plugins, in a world of particularly, I've talked to a lot of people that are performing on stage.
Yeah.
Why should someone spend the money to haul this keyboard around to use on stage?
Because it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
It sounds huge.
Yeah.
The raw sound of all those oscillators beating away is massive. And run through speakers, you can't really match it with a VST.
Yeah.
There's great sounding Oberheim VST plugins, so don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But you're getting like a huge raw sound from this. And on top of that, you have a dedicated interface, right?
Yeah.
For performance.
Yeah.
And all of this stuff, there may be a little bit of a learning curve. You have to come to this and learn it.
Yeah.
But once you do, this is your instrument.
Got it, yeah.
You know, it's an instrument. And as you pointed out, it is a bit like a workstation in that you can layer patches and create sounds by doing things you couldn't easily do on a VST.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. Well, where can people go to find more about this synth?
Well, you can go to Oberheim.com.
Okay, sweet.
There's a whole bunch of information on there, photos and sound samples.
Cool, awesome.
And you can email support@oberheim.com also, and we'll answer your questions.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Brian, thank you so much.
Hey, you're really welcome.
This has been awesome. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I loved it. Don't tell my wife who's filming this video, but we may be buying one. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you want to see the rest of our footage coverage of NAMM 2022, click the link in the description of this video to check out the playlist. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. See you on the next one. Bye.